Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about how and why Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous could return to the original park from 1993. Now, when it comes to the Netflix animated series, so far, we've seen the protagonists visit and interact with several different locations, both old and new, from the Jurassic World park, which has by now obviously been destroyed for quite some time. Since it's taking them rather longer than we expected to get rescued, one of the places that I think a lot of people have thought about having the kids interact with in the episodes to come would have to be Jurassic Park, specifically areas that we all got to see from the first movie. Now when it comes to Camp Cretaceous, I think so far Jurassic World has done a pretty solid job at creating an Isla Nublar story that channels the franchise's familiar elements into a noticeably successful way. Before the show came out, there was a lot of talk of the series being something that nobody would respond positively to. However, as of right now, it stands as the second highest rated entry in the Jurassic Park franchise if we go by the critical reception at Rotten Tomatoes, which for Camp Cretaceous is way more impressive than I ever would have imagined. As far as the other films go, The Lost World, Fallen Kingdom, and JP3 have all kind of received pretty similar scorings to one another when you compare them to Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and Camp Cretaceous. And by the way, since Battle at Big Rock doesn't really have any representation on this website, I can't really use it for the video, but regardless, I think it's kind of obvious that Camp Cretaceous has delivered a pretty remarkable expansion of the lore for fans of this series, but that doesn't mean we have to limit ourselves to only exploring dinosaur territories within the new parts of the island. So far, both Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom have only given us very brief and small access into the old park, with the fourth film showing us the destroyed visitor center, and of course Fallen Kingdom letting us see the Ford Explorer that the T-Rex threw into its paddock. Now, one of the interesting things that I think we all have to take into consideration when it comes to relics of the past and Jurassic Park is the fact that not everything that we've seen or really will see in the future is going to be as set in stone as it would be in other franchises. This is of course due to the fact that Isla Nublar is not a barren island with nothing on it, but rather one that is home to a wide variety of gigantic dinosaurs that roam about the place of their own free will. So if you've known about one specific piece of Jurassic history being left in a particular location from the 1993 film, you probably shouldn't expect it to be in the exact place where it was left off in the incoming sequels. For example, if we take a look at the VR game titled Jurassic World Blue, we can see one of the Jeep Wranglers that was used by Hammond and Grant to meet the Brachiosaurus from the original movie has now been totally destroyed and pushed closer towards where the base of Nublar's volcano, Mount Siehda, happens to be. When and how this happened is up for some serious speculation. However, since both the Tyrannosaur and even the new Baryonyx happened to show up during that experience, it's easy to connect the dots and guess that some of the bigger assets may have been mucking up the place one way or another since the island was abandoned. Now, when it comes to how Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous approaches these locations and what they choose to let us see, I personally have a small list that I think would make every fan happy if this decision was left up to me. And those areas would be the Raptor Pen, Dennis Nedry's abandoned Jeep, the helipad from the movie, and maybe even the 1993 Rex paddock. Now, I'm going to leave the visitor center out for now since it already showed up in Jurassic World, but when it comes to the holding area of the first film's Tyrannosaur, I think there is a lot of stuff there that would be awesome to see expanded upon in the future. For starters, many of you will probably no doubt know that the paddock was teased to show up in Fallen Kingdom, and in fact, there was a lot of talk about how differently this area looked in the film in relation to Jurassic Park, but to make a long story short, I don't actually think we've seen the Rex paddock in its full dinosaur glory since the first film. And I'll break this down for a lot of you in order to make things as simple as I possibly can. So, in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the Ford Explorer that the Tyrannosaurus threw over the concrete moat is shown to not be lying against its tree, which is how we first saw it depicted in concept art. It is instead shown to have been pushed away from that location and has become the home of a small pack of green compies, which we see run away startled once Blue shows up. By the way, this image of a velociraptor standing atop the ruined Explorer from Jurassic Park was actually some of the very first imagery we ever got officially released from the fourth film. So it's interesting to see how they were planning on using it that early in advance of Fallen Kingdom itself. Now, some important things to remember about the original Jurassic Park and Fallen Kingdom is the fact that the concrete wall of the Rex enclosure is not supposed to be behind the tree in either the 1993 film or Fallen Kingdom. I know some people thought it was missing in the 5th movie, but that doesn't really make any sense because it wasn't even behind the tree in Jurassic Park. In fact, if anything, it's supposed to be in front of the car and behind the camera that we see through the shots that Spielberg selected in the movie. Now, one of the interesting things about Fallen Kingdom is that we can see that something has apparently caused the other tire of the Ford Explorer to get ripped away in a similar fashion to what Rexy did in the 1993 movie. I like to think that the Rex may have climbed back down and played with the Explorer a bit more after the events of the film, but hey, it legitimately could have been anything. Most notably, a Brachiosaur could have been even responsible for its move in location, since the canon book, The Evolution of Claire, reveals that the giant sauropods actually liked to kick the early versions of Jurassic World's gyrospheres just for fun when the park was first opening up. So I think the idea of one of these guys doing further damage to Jurassic Park era equipment isn't exactly stretching what we know to be true in the lore so far. Now, with all of that being said, I would love to see some of these places pop up in future episodes. Even the top of the Rex paddock where the destroyed bathroom was, maybe some bones from Gennaro, I don't know. Anyways, if Camp Cretaceous ever chooses to put the protagonist in some of these historic locations, I'd love to see how they've changed and been altered through the passage of time. Maybe even a nice look at what's left of the Velociraptor that got locked in the kitchen freezer could be an awesome way for them to look around the place. And if they ever come across Dennis Nedry's body, well, that would be something that I think people everywhere would jump up and get excited for. It could even be a good way to segue into a fully grown Dilophosaur. So, yeah, there's that too. From what we know, the creators of Camp Cretaceous are going out of their way to explore and use as many notable locations from the films that they can on Isla Nublar. Zach and Gray were able to find the visitor center with relative ease in 2015, and since we still have a little bit of time before those mercenaries show up to recover the rib bone of the Indominus in the coming months, I personally think they'd be missing a giant opportunity by not giving us another look at the old park before the series ends. Anyways, guys, those are all just my own thoughts and opinions on the subject matter. Now, whatever yours happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it seriously means the world to me that you all continue to support what I do, and I never want you to ever forget that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video and hope you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in seeing me again. See you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.